You want me to put that on my todger?
Thomas Markle Jr. hammers her. Things really are not going particularly well for Harry's wife at the moment. Popularity tanking. Harry buggered off to Japan. The royals enjoying themselves in Balmoral, laughing at her attempts to make herself relevant and popular again. Pap walks being derided. Famous people not wanting to know anything about her. Taylor Swift giving her a slap down. And now her half-brother has continued to join the fray. He created a video on his channel whereby he starts off by wishing her happy birthday, explaining that you're my little sister and that he's her big brother and that from the bottom of his heart he wanted to wish her a happy birthday, etc. It all seems rather wholesome. Filmed in the kitchen, presumably at his home. He's explaining how he is being kind and is wishing her a happy 42nd birthday. The birthday wishes, however, are short-lived because it then cuts to a second video that he has created whereby he then launches into tearing several strips off her. Thus, it makes it seem like he's being kind and considerate by wishing her happy birthday, but that appears to be some kind of ruse that he has developed. Instead, he explains, 42, you look like you're pushing 60. You're going to need a facelift every 6 months to keep up with your stress level that makes you look like that. Delivers a scathing insult to her in relation to her appearance. He then upbraids her for her failure to contact their father. He explains, you don't even call Dad on his birthday a short time ago. What, are you too busy shaving down your bunions or taking a hacksaw to that hammer toe? Thus he's unimpressed with her failure to have any contact with their father and gets personal with regard to those cloven hooves, whereby many people know that she suffers from bunions and the suggestion that there's a hammer toe as well. So he weighs in again on her appearance. He then says, you don't call me on my birthday either, and then says, happy birthday, you old hag. He then produces a chocolate cake and said that he's put 62 candles on it to reflect how she actually looks. He adds, when you look in the mirror, do you realize that the only friend you have is in that mirror? You might think about changing your ways, but it's way too late. Well, it is way too late. Although I think Mr. Markle is suggesting that it's way too late in the sense of you've crossed a line and we can never go back to the way we once were because of the way that you have behaved. Of course, perhaps what he doesn't realize is that it's too late for any suggestion of changing ways because she simply can't. It still remains the case, and I've seen this in comments on my channel and elsewhere below the line, that people repeatedly think that she has the capacity to realize that she behaves in a shitty manner towards people and therefore she could change. Understand this. She doesn't ever think that she's shitty to anybody save where she does see it, it's justified. A lot of the time, she doesn't think that her behavior is inappropriate. In other instances, she might recognize that she has treated somebody badly, but they deserve it. In many instances where she has been the one that has behaved poorly, there's a revision of history. Take, for instance, the interaction that she had with Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, she then once was, suggesting that Catherine was the aggressor. History has been changed by Harry's wife's narcissism. In other instances, particularly notably with Prince Harry, her narcissism will say basically he deserved it because he was being a wanker. The fact is, she can't change. Her behaviour is pathologically entrenched as part of the self-defense mechanism that is her narcissism. And someone such as her half-sibling, who has known her all of her life, doesn't recognise that there can be no change in her, along with many other people. And it's important that people grasp that. He continues by explaining, you've gone from having everything to what? And then he seems to almost move on to another thing immediately, ditching that train of thought and saying, I've worn your favourite shirt, by the way. And he's wearing a T-shirt which says boats and hose on it. Clearly a dig at her yacht days. He then segues into another segment where he appears with a copy of Spare, and he's saying that he's reading bookmarks. He then talks about mocking somebody being on a boat who'd paid $20 for a 30-minute slot, perhaps suggesting prostitution, and then talks about how, presumably Harry, walked down a gangplank and the sun shone through the bow legs of Harry's wife, creating a heart, and that it was a sign from God that I found my princess. Clearly, Mr. Markle at this juncture is just mocking Spare with his own version of events. He plays it off as him just engaging in saying that it's a book that he's writing, just something that he was toying with, but it's a clear dig at his sister and his brother-in-law. He further mocks Spare and refers to Harry's wife as a demon reptile snake draining Harry's soul from his body, leaving him on the side of the road like a carcass, and then moves on to another segment where he is suggesting that Harry wakes up next to Harry's wife and sees her looking like her mother without makeup and thought that he was in bed with the devil. He then ends with happy birthday, colostomy bag, throwing in another insult at her. He then pops up again, this time in a different part of the house, and talks about an occasion basically where people have come up and acknowledged him and have thanked him for his channel, etc. And he refers to the fact that he was in a restaurant opposite Sizzler, where Dipshit, referring to Harry's wife, said that we had to rub 2 nickels together to afford to eat there. So Mr. Markle has created a video which is pulling no punches whatsoever in terms of the repeated insults that he's throwing towards his sister. It's not the most sophisticated of productions, it has to be said, and nor is the delivery, but it certainly does what it intends to, which is insult her repeatedly. Now, what would the impact be upon Harry's wife? Well, simply, if she didn't watch it, it would have no impact upon her at all because she doesn't know about it. She has no interest in her half-sibling, Mr. Markle, or her father, or her other half-sibling, Samantha, as she has disengaged from those secondary sources. She deems that they offer nothing in her world, and furthermore, are viewed as too problematic with regard to the issue of control, and therefore they have been cast into oblivion. Lacking any sense of obligation, moral fibre, or emotional empathy for them, that is very easy for Harry's wife to do, and therefore it's understandable that Mr. Markle is suitably bitter at the way that he has been treated. However, it might be the case that Harry's wife does indeed view that video. She has plenty of time on her hands, and the type of narcissist that she is, she will regularly scour the mainstream news and on social media to see what people are saying about her, because she can't help herself. Higher echelon narcissists ignore all of that crap because they're too busy getting on with their schemes and plans and running companies and all the rest of it. But for Harry's wife, not only does she have the time on her hands, after all, she only works 1 hour a week for Archwell, but there's the fact that the level of her paranoia is such it drives her to look at these things, and therefore there is a possibility that she might see this video. To begin with, she'll be pleased because it seems like he's being nice and providing pure positive fuel to her and demonstrating that he's under control. She wouldn't be moved to contact him to say, "Thank you, that was very kind of you." Her narcissism won't let her do that, because notwithstanding those gestures, he would still be viewed badly. However, once it shifts onto him lambasting her, that's challenge fuel. He's giving her what she wants by way of fuel, but he's repeatedly challenging her by insinuating that she was a prostitute as a yacht girl, by insulting her by calling her colostomy bag and dipshit, likening her to the devil, likening her to somebody sucking the life out of Harry, and so forth. All of that would result in an ignition of fury. It's not going to drive her to contact her brother to say, "What the fuck are you playing at? Shut your mouth," or else. Instead, she will simply complain about it and say to Harry, "See, this is the kind of rubbish that I had to put up with all those years." And the problem is that whilst it's very entertaining and it will have ignited her fury, it doesn't actually help Harry, because that will consolidate in his mind that she was right to break away from her family because, look, this is the way that they behave. And it actually gives credence to the position that she has adopted. Of course, if she views this whilst Harry is in Japan, she might complain to some other flunky, or she will simply jettison it by staying in the position of withdrawal from Thomas Markle Jr. and thus asserting control that way. The threat to control that he poses with his insults will be nullified because it always is. But once again, plenty of other people will be watching this, knowing about it, hearing about it through what I'm talking about as well, which amplifies the effect and just continues to generate that general tsunami of dislike for Harry's wife. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.